Welcome. This topic is near and dear to me. I'll tell you why, real briefly. My first professional job was as a teacher and a guidance counselor in a small school in upstate New York. So career themes have always been very important to me and very near and dear to my heart. In my job at the University of Maryland in Baltimore County, I run a graduate program in instructional design. And the people in the program, if I didn't know better, kind of look like people in this room. They are working adults, a lot of them in our profession. Some kind of have 1 foot in, some kind of have a toe in, some have 2 fingers in, and so forth. And the big thing that I know, and we graduate about 40 to 50 master's candidates a year and about an equal number of graduate certificates. The big thing I know is they're there because of career reasons. They want to get a job. They want to get a better job. They want to get a more interesting job. They want to get a more fun job. They want to get a more flexible job. They want to get a more creative job. It's really career related. They might love to learn, but that's probably a secondary or maybe even a tertiary reason. They are really there as a means to get ahead. So what I have found is that there's a lot of smart people out there, like the people in this room, that maybe aren't using some simple tools that they can really help them in terms of advancing their career. So that's information about me, and that's kind of boring, but essentially what I like to do in every workshop that I do is just get a quick sense, not go through everybody in the room, but some high-level things. You read the description. What do you want to get out of today's workshop? Hands.
I want to learn things for improving my portfolio.
An action plan. It's going to stay relevant. And so when the time comes that I need to go out there and start searching if and when, I want to be...
Okay, here's good. I'm glad you said that because that relates to my story. So why this presentation? Well, I told you a little bit about it, but really the career reasons are, I think, the big motivators. We spend a lot of our time in our careers, working in our jobs, trying to advance our careers, trying to get the most out of it. And by and large, most people I've found don't pay too much attention to managing their careers. They kind of let things happen to them sometimes. I did. I made some really bad mistakes where I let things happen to me. And then I realized, that's really stupid. Why did I do that? Why did I allow that? I will never let that happen again. And I'll tell you why. Career portfolio is real simple. It's a tool. Just like PowerPoint is a tool. Screwdriver is a tool. They're not good, they're not bad, they just are. I always love it when people say, I hate PowerPoint. It's like, well, don't use it. You know? It's a tool. It's not good, it's not bad, you know. A career portfolio is a tool to help you communicate your abilities to your employer for a promotion or to a potential employer. It's a way to document those things. So, you know, the theme for this was when we submitted proposals to present was the Hollywood theme. Now, there are not a lot of professions that actually have portfolios. Actors are one of them. Actors can actually submit, and models and architects can actually submit documentation of their work. So somebody that wants to hire them can say, hey, I like the way you act, or I like the way you model, or I like the way that building looks that you design, you know, etc. I predict in our field, workplace learning, that in the future, the majority of people 5 to 10 years from now will have a career portfolio. Because a lot of what we do in our field tends to be either a document or can be documented. Why am I recording myself? I am recording my skills as a facilitator, as a presenter. Why am I doing this? Because people are starting to ask me, we want you to speak at our conference. We want you to speak at our chapter. Do you have any video? So, I'm not the dumbest guy in the world. I figure I better start doing this. So about 3 years ago, I start documenting myself. You can do this too. That is, you know, it's a basic home camcorder, high definition. Takes pretty good video. So if you're ever doing presentations, you can stage one. If you're not doing one like this, you can stage one. It's good documentation so you can show it to someone who's asking to see what kind of presentation, facilitation skills you have. So, you know, why do you want to have a portfolio? Well, here's my big motivation for having a portfolio. About, oh gosh, let's see, when was it? 7 years ago, Okay? I work in higher education, which used to be this haven. You don't get fired from higher education. You don't get laid off. Okay? You're a loser if that happens. Right? Nobody gets laid off. I got laid off twice in the period of 18 months. Okay? I was shocked. Let me tell you, if you've ever been laid off, it's not a good feeling. You start to have these crazy feelings about, gosh, I'm really not that good, and you start to doubt yourself. These things can happen. And what I learned is you always want to be looking for opportunities. Because if an organization, and this sounds crass, but I really believe this. I love who I work for, but I realize that if things change and they say, we're closing your program down, we don't need you as faculty member or as program director, I'm out in the street, I want to be ready. 7 years ago, I wasn't ready. Okay? So my motivation was my family. All right? At the time, my wife and I, I'm getting a little emotional, we just adopted 2 young boys. Okay? I had no job. I was scared. I don't want you to be that way. Okay? I was relatively, newly married, less than a couple of years. My wife and I adopted. We had our boys as foster children, and then we adopted them. And I got laid off, like for the second time. And I was like, this is crazy. Why is this happening? And I really didn't have the tools that I needed to help me get a job. I eventually did through some of the portfolio that I have, and we have a much better one now. But, my underlying message, well, it's not underlined, it's over the top. Always be looking for opportunities. Because if an organization can save on resources, get better in terms of saving on their resources, cutting the budget by letting someone go, they will. Okay? It's a fact. It's simple. And in this time, you can't afford to do that. So my big motivation was, oh my God, I got to feed these, how am I going to tell my little guy Dylan, I don't have food for you, Dylan? I was scared, okay? When I was single, I didn't worry about that. But then it's like, gosh, I have these big fears that I don't want this ever to happen again. So, what I found out in my anecdotal research, not always good when you work in higher education, is that probably less than 10% of people actually have a career portfolio. All right, so what does that tell you? That tells me that when you apply for an opportunity and you actually bring a portfolio, just the fact that you have one is going to look pretty good. And if it's organized well, and if it's meaningful, and if there are skills, knowledge, and abilities that actually relate to the professional standards in our field, which I will talk about, you're going to look even better. Okay? A portfolio is proof, okay? It is the smoking gun. Someone could look at this video and say, all right, we've seen this Williams guy present. He's still not that good, but we have video. The other guy we don't have video of. So a portfolio is proof, because you can actually submit things. Because as someone that works in workplace learning and performance, you can show copies of a design plan. You can show copies of a population analysis. You can show job aids that you've created. You can show multimedia, Captivate presentations, and others. All right, those are high-end things. But you can show other things as well. It really gives you the edge. Okay, one of my students, sharp guy. He was a sharp guy before he came to us. He's probably in his early 30s, former Army Ranger. Kind of go-getter guy. He said, using that portfolio, he said, I haven't even graduated yet. And he said, and I have 3 job offers on the table right now. And I said, that's great. He said, well, why does it work so well? I said, because, first of all, no one's doing what you're doing. You're actually using this method, which I will show you. So what goes into a portfolio? Well, I mentioned some things, but copies of emails, of memos, that said, hey, Greg, you did a great job as the project manager. That is a low-level artifact that you can use. I would solicit them. It's like somebody said, well, isn't it bad when you solicit something? Isn't it bad when a company lets you go for no reason other than they don't have the budget to pay you? Okay, I would solicit those. So your bosses, former bosses, colleagues, co-workers, I would get things in writing, and just could be simple little email. All right? People say, you know, all right, I have a portfolio, but I don't know where I'm going with it. Well, you really need a goal. Okay? You can have in your portfolio a bunch of artifacts, and like resumes, you can tailor a portfolio. Your goal can be, you want to be a director of training. Your goal can be, I want to be an instructional designer. Your goal can be, I want to e-learning developer. You have to have a goal because your goal is going to tell you what knowledge, skills, and abilities you need to document. Okay? One of my students, chart guy, said, can you look at my resume? I'm, going out in the job market again, and I want you to look at my resume. So we had this conversation, and I said, tell me about what sort of job you're looking for. And he did, and we went on, and I said, well, okay, if you could email me your resume and take a look at it, that would be helpful. So he did that. Look at his resume. Career objective, to be a web developer. I said, Chris, you're applying for instructional design jobs, but then in your resume it says you want to be a web developer? You can't do that. That's basic. He goes, oh, I have different versions, and I forgot which one I sent you. So it's important to have, you can have multiple goals, but just keep them straight in terms of what you're doing. So the contents of your portfolio are artifacts. Artifacts simply are man-made things. That's the basic definition of an artifact. And we've already mentioned some of those. Okay, it could be memos, could be videos, could be multimedia things, it could be course design plans, it could be employee evaluations, which is another great use of a portfolio. Because have you ever been at the end of a evaluation cycle and your boss is like, well, what did you really do this year? Well, imagine if you actually had things documented that said, I did this, and this, and here they are. And then he or she says, oh, yeah, I remember those now. That's great. So, what I want you to do is, on your table, you actually have a worksheet agenda, a workshop agenda, okay? And I want you to open up to exercise 1, your top accomplishments. We're going to take about 5 to 7 minutes. Why are your top accomplishments important? Well, for a number of reasons. One is you're going to use them over and over and over again because they will be the genesis of your portfolio items. They can also be the genesis for when you go to interviews. They always, what's a typical question? Typical interview question. What do you consider to be your most significant professional accomplishments? Very predictable. So take this 5 to 7 minutes right now, and I want you to write down, okay, this is brainstorming. So don't evaluate them now. Just get them down on paper because you're going to revise these. Okay? And you're going to say, I can't think of all my top accomplishments in 5 minutes. And you're not. This is an ongoing process that you're going to go through. And you're going to keep adding to this list. Okay? So put down on your sheet as many accomplishments as you can. Now somebody will always say, well, my team did this, but I didn't do that. It is okay to cite group accomplishments. Is my time up already? Okay. It's been nice, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you. It's okay to cite group accomplishments. Simply identify your role. Okay? I was a subject matter expert. I was the instructional technology specialist. I was the instructional designer. I was the training manager. I was a project, whatever. We all know that we do things in groups at work, okay? The other thing that just as you're working, I'm kind of, talking here. People sell themselves short in accomplishments. They think accomplishments, oh gosh, that means like, well, I didn't create the pyramids, They think of these grandiose, colossal accomplishments. This is brainstorming. Just get things down, okay? Put things down on paper. You can evaluate them later, okay? So let's take the next 5 minutes and go ahead and do it. So, we are lucky that we are in a field that actually has professional standards. Now, other fields do too. Like if you're a professional engineer, there are certain standards that you have to achieve to be a professional engineer. I believe there's a whole certification process. But in our field, training and development, workplace learning, we actually have standards, right? These look familiar? Yes? I'm seeing some heads nod. Okay. These competencies. Now, I know ASTD calls them areas of expertise. I just don't like that term. I'm going to call them competencies, and just so, you know. They're areas of expertise according to ASTD. Greg calls them competencies because I just think that's pithier. All right, so what we're going to do is in the second exercise, all right, and it's in your sheet, you're going to start to take your accomplishments and then you're going to put them into some of those categories. Okay? Why are we doing this? Because, first of all, ASTD did millions of dollars worth of research with the federal government and companies to come up with those standards. And I believe they did it around 2004, 2003, roughly. So they're valid. They're not going out of style. Okay? Now, all of these competencies might not be important for you personally in terms of, let's look at like coaching, for example. Coaching. All right, it's a competency that's in there, but let's say for the job that you're aspiring to or the promotion that you're aspiring to, coaching isn't important, okay? So then you're just going to pretty much ignore that. That's okay. You don't have to have experience in documentation in all of these competencies. But what I want you to do, and they're written on your paper, is start taking your accomplishments and start plugging them into those areas of competency, okay? Because when people look at your portfolio, you can divide it up into different areas. You can have an area on designing training. You can have another area on managing learning. You can have another area on instructional technology, which actually isn't AST, instructional technology, which AST isn't recognized as a competency, but believe me, it's important enough to have in there. Okay? Then the reason, to be fair to ASTD, the reason they didn't have that in there, my understanding is that they considered it like communication, that you should have expertise in it anyways. So they didn't specify it as a particular competency, or area of expertise, excuse me. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to take your accomplishments that you wrote down, and you're going to start to put them into those categories. Now, what does this help you do? If you are applying for a particular job, let's say you're applying for a training manager job, and then you see that in all your great accomplishments, you're kind of coming up short under the area of managing learning. All right, that tells you something. You either have to revisit your accomplishments and see if you can make a case for that, or go out and get some experience that you can try to document to actually put in there. What you can do is you can go back and document them. There's nothing wrong with that. I think she left on me. The lady that asked the question was over there. I'm not sure where she is. I thought she was here. She disappeared. She's documenting her accomplishments outside. There's nothing wrong with going back and saying, you know what, I did this in 2006, but I have no evidence of it. Okay? There's nothing wrong in going back and writing something up. Okay? Or creating a video or a multimedia, because the fact of the matter is, if you can do it, and if you did it, it's an accomplishment. Employers, they're not going to rake you over the coals and say, okay, was it 6 months ago or was it 6 years ago? Now, if it was surgery and you haven't operated in 60 years and you're trying to get hired as a surgeon, well, that might be an issue. But in most cases, it's not. Yes, sir?
A question about proprietary information.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you're applying for a new job, and you want to show them that you have respect for proprietary information. And by doing this, you don't want to simply share, for example, an e-learning module,
Mm-hmm.
which is something that was produced for your previous employer. But
Right.
you can send the message to them.
Sure.
I would do the same thing with your information. You have to treat that with,
Right.
gloves. How do you handle that?
First and foremost, don't go to jail. Okay? And here's what I mean by that. Know what your company's policy is in terms of giving out information beyond the company. Okay? If it's like an ironclad policy, you might be stuck. But in some cases, you can say, I accomplished this for a large Fortune 100 company, and the project was for, a large federal agency that is in the spy business. NSA. Could be CIA. So, you can do that, and you can kind of, even in documents, you can kind of white out the name and put in a generic name. I've had a lot of my alumni, do that. But you want to understand what the policy is, and you don't want to give information out you're not supposed to give out. Because if you work for an organization that has proprietary information, it's proprietary, as you know, for a reason. So, don't go to jail. But if you can get away with saying, a large Fortune 500 company, a mid-sized federal agency, or, a small manufacturing firm, something like that, that might be okay. Because, again, when somebody's interviewing, they have your paperwork. They're going to know where you probably did something based on your resume. Okay, so exercise 3. What I want you to do is kind of work through them. There's ways that you can identify existing artifacts. There's a lot of things that are already out there that document your performance. They might not be real sexy things like multimedia presentations. It might be a copy of a report or a memo or a performance appraisal that just identifies you as doing a stellar job as an employee on a particular project during a certain time period, etc. So start to gather those. They already exist. This is easy stuff. This is like the low-hanging fruit. Okay. The other thing you could do is I would start to identify people for references, saying that hey Charlie, I know you're not at company X anymore, and I'm not either. But would you mind writing like a memo for the record that just basically says that I did a good job when you were the project manager, you were my boss, and what I think is very appropriate to say, I'll write you a rough draft and then you can modify it. And people tend to like that because they don't have to write it themselves and they can just kind of revise it. Okay? So I would start to solicit references and people that can testify to the fact that you did a good job, and with specific examples. It's not like, yeah, Greg's a good guy, did a good job. You want to have specific examples, and we'll get into a format later that'll show you exactly how to do that. Yes?
Question. What you're describing is very much like the structure of a recommendation in LinkedIn, like that's kind of built into that.
Yeah.
Would you recommend pointing people to that or using that and leveraging it in any way?
I have a LinkedIn account, and I have a lot of connections in LinkedIn. I'm not big on the LinkedIn recommendations because this is personal. I just feel like anybody can find someone that says they did a good job. But if you give them specific artifacts that says, he did a good job and here's evidence of why I think it's a good job, I think that's different.
Okay.
So, yes sir?
There's an ongoing discussion within LinkedIn that those types of recommendations quite often are quid pro quo. I'll give you one if you give me one, or if you get on the list and you say, "Ooh, I recommended Sam," and "Oh, Sam recommended me." Wow.
Yeah, and I don't know for sure, but I think that LinkedIn likes you to have those because they keep asking you. So it's like, all right, are you guys pushing me to get a higher level account where I pay you money? I'm not exactly sure.
One more thing to build on that is something I've noticed on LinkedIn. I agree with the quid pro quo, and it's easy to fall into that trap. Of course, you can protect yourself by doing the right thing from your perspective. But I noticed that you can see a theme emerging. And I think it's very difficult to get a whole lot of people saying similar things about you, or things that seem to show a type of character. If people seem to be picking up on the same kinds of things that they appreciate in you and what they write, then I think that it describes your character to a potential employer. So
Right.
It's probably not by itself, but it is a type of artifact that's worthwhile.
Well, and we're more than our resume, we're more than our portfolio, we're more than our education. So it's one data point. LinkedIn is one data point. Your portfolio, the artifacts, that's one data point. How you interview, they all add up to the larger picture. I'm just not big on the recommendations in LinkedIn because anybody can say anything, and there's it's like, all right, show me, where's the beef? Show me the proof. Why is this guy a good project manager? I want to hear from people that actually worked on a project with him that actually said, he was, under time, under budget, or on time, under budget, etc. The other way to document accomplishments is, again, there is nothing wrong with, you write your accomplishments and you say, okay, I did this like 7 years ago. It was a real major accomplishment for my career. But I have nothing that there's nothing that says you can't go back and kind of document itself. All right. Let's say, you could create, you could recreate. You could grab reports, or you could have somebody. I've had people actually do interviews Their boss did like a short, using the camcorder, a short interview saying, yeah, Greg was the project manager on this project in 2006, and it did A, B, and C, and it created this new revenue source for us that amounted to X dollars. There's nothing that says you can't do that. So don't feel like just because it's in the past, well, it's gone. I can't claim that. You can. Okay, so don't forget about things like that. Yeah, you can get a lot of good mileage out of performance appraisals because when you sit, it's everybody knows, but a lot of people don't actually do. When you sit down with your boss, you can actually say, well, if in the upcoming year, if I did an excellent job, what would that look like to you? And then you start that conversation of, well, I would like to see you work on this project. Then you define what success looks like. And then you have mutual agreement. And then when you achieve success, and then it's documented because he writes you a memo or it's in your evaluation. So it's, you can add to your portfolio and help yourself as an employee in terms of using that evaluation so that you can kind of cross-pollinate and kind of help each other. Because you do the evaluation anyways, right?
Right.
So you might as well do it to add items to your professional portfolio. Because, workplace learning now, in my opinion, we are in a much more media-savvy, documented visual sort of field where you can, even if it's a document, you can see a job aid, it could be a PDF. You can see a population analysis. You can see a course design plan. You can see a multimedia presentation. You can see a video. So there's lots of things that, I think our field has kind of evolved, and then with the technology, evolving, like, these camcorders where you can get a good camcorder for, a decent camcorder for, under $500, or even borrow one sometimes. I mean, I've had some of my students where they will do a presentation, and they will have the camera, and they will be up making the presentation, and there's no audience, but you don't know that, because the camera's just on them, and what they're doing is they're documenting their presentation skills. Nothing wrong with that. It used to be, to have an electronic portfolio, you had to know how to create a website or pay somebody to do it for you. You don't have to do that anymore. I'm going to talk about that, okay? Planted that. Okay. All right. So, this is probably the heart, what I consider to be the heart of today's, in terms of the strategy, okay? What you want to do is, you think about it. When you apply for a job, the popular trend that I don't see going away anytime fast is they get a group of people, a committee, a panel, okay? Probably at least 5, because that seems to be like the number they like to have. All right? Has anybody interviewed recently? Was it a group of people? Okay. Was everybody knowledgeable about ASTD's 9 areas of expertise? Did they know how to spell ASTD? Okay. All right. The point is, if you have these artifacts, and forget about the format they're in right now, whether it's paper or electronic. If people don't know what they are, and what you did, and what you accomplished, in a way, they're kind of meaningless then. Or they don't have as much meaning as if somebody looks at it and says, oh, this is an example of training delivery. And, hey, it says that this is a competency by this professional society. That sounds pretty important to have, and this person actually has that. Okay, now everybody on that panel or that group is not going to be that naive. But believe me, there will be some people on this panel that, unless you hit them right between the eyes with your message, they're not going to get it. So you have to make that clear to them. Yes, sir?
Are you getting ready, or have you said or implied that somewhere on this portfolio we need to say that this outline of competencies are based upon ASCD?
I'm getting ready to say that.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, I'm getting ready. I've implied that, and I'm getting ready. All right. Here we go. All right. So, let's go back. Look at your worksheet. Okay, I thought I had this on a slide, but I guess not. Let me go. Oh, we do. All right. So, we want you to stand out. I like my robots. All right, I like my robot guys. We want you to stand out from the group that's applying for this job. The fact that you have a portfolio, believe me, stupid as it sounds, a lot of people do not have portfolios still. In fact, most do not. I still say in my head it's about 10%. So that's 90% that don't. So when you interview and you actually have documented proof that you have achieved certain professional standards or examples of professional standards, I think that's impressive.
I need
Yes.
to ask you a question. So what is the difference between that and resume?
Well, a resume is just, in most cases, it's a job description at worst. At best, it says that you have competencies if you cite examples. But again, where's the proof?
So where's the proof going to be in the portfolio except for what you...
Because if you create, okay, if somebody that actually sees this presentation, all right, let's say I'm the world's worst presenter. Hope I'm not. But let's say I'm at least average. I hope this video will demonstrate me being at least an average facilitator. That's proof. Instead of me saying on a resume, hey, I'm an average presenter. Well, if I was to put it on a resume, I would say, I'm a better than average presenter. I hope. Okay? You can be the judge of that. You can be the judge of that. But again, it's proof. And again, you know, this is one data point. You know, when someone doesn't hire somebody just based on their resume, they don't hire somebody just based on their recommendations or on their education. Because the question that I get asked a lot in my position at the University of Maryland is, well, if I get this master's degree from you guys, will that get me a job? And right now, I'm very comfortable in saying, no, that alone will not get you a job. Because you could be an idiot. And you interview poorly, you don't play well with people, you get frustrated easily, you don't work well in groups. That has nothing to do with your education. Okay?
So what you would do is bring in the material that you trained on?
Yeah, I would bring, here's what I would do. I would bring in videos. First of all, you have to get documentation. I would get videos. I would show copies of evaluations. Okay, like on my website. I've got student evaluations. You know, I'm not stupid. I put student evaluations on there. And guess which ones I pick? The best ones. Yes, I do. I do. Okay? Am I the best trainer or teacher in the world? No. But I have some documentation that shows that a reasonable number of people think I'm pretty good. I'm not sure if that's true. Okay? I'm trying to be modest. Sorry.
No, I'm getting it now.
Okay.
I apologize. I'm just
Right.
not familiar with it.
No, this whole concept for some people is new because a lot of us are not good at kind of tooting our own horns. We're not, you know, it was like my old school thought. If I work hard, I will be recognized. My employee will, you know, take care of me and I'll be okay. Boy, was I wrong. Okay? That's never going to happen again. Okay, so the CCAR format. And this is a little memory device. CCAR is for competency, context, action, and result. You have it in your handouts. Okay? This could be, take that back, this should be your cover page that introduces and describes your artifacts, your competency, okay? First, identify the competency. So you can use ASTD's competencies. Designing training, delivering training, coaching, on and on. Okay? And then you can put in there that this is a competency that's been identified by the premier training and development professional association as being a bona fide, you know, et cetera, et cetera. All right? You want to describe the situation. How did you apply this competency? Okay? What was happening? What was going on? Okay? What company did you work at? That sort of thing. All right? The action that you took and why. What did you do? Did you have nothing better to do and you're looking for something to do on the weekend and you said, hey, I'm going to do a training course. I'm going to create a job aid. Okay? And I'm going to show you examples of this so it'll have more meaning. And then results. Okay? The R's for results. If possible, we like measurable results, right? Everybody likes measurable results. So if you have any numbers that you could put in, like for evaluations, 90% of the students, you know, rated me as they would take another class from me. I put that in there. Thank you. My wife looks at these things and she just thinks I'm like the dopiest guy in the world, you know. So that's it. CCAR: competency, context, action, and result. We're going to go through this. Okay? So here's an example, and you have this in your handouts. Let's say designing learning. All right? Then you describe it by ASTD, what that competency is. All right, the context. I was working at company X, the sales revenues were down, you know, after we hired new sales reps. What did I do? Or what was I directed to do? I created the first company's online sales training course. Okay? Results. Sales rose X% after the course was implemented. Now, is it all attributed to the online course? No, probably not. But I'm not lying. Okay? So that's the format you want to use. So when that guy that can't spell ASTD is looking at your competency, your artifact, if you use this as a cover sheet, it gives it some meaning, some explanation, some sort of context, instead of just seeing, you know, a document in there. And the guy's like, job aid, what, you know, what's that? I don't know what that is. You know, I'm an engineer. I don't know what a job aid is. So that's the format. Let's look at another example. Delivering learning. Okay, again, that's the competency. Context. Remote staff, they can't get training. The employees, there's more errors processing claims. You can put a percentage in if you actually know that. That always looks good. Action. Taught the company's first online sales claims processing course. Okay, results. Claims processing errors were reduced, or customer satisfaction was improved. All right. So somebody reads that, and they get an idea of what you did, what the situation was, how you helped the company, because that's what managers and bosses want. They want people to help them solve problems, right? They don't care if you have a network. They don't care if you have a master's degree or a doctoral degree. They don't care if you have 100 years experience. They want to see your results. That's right. That's my experience. So, now, is it possible that you have an artifact that cuts across and can address more than one competency? The good news is yes. So you might have an accomplishment that you can cut it maybe 5 different ways, saying, I could use this to demonstrate my designing training skills. I can use this to demonstrate my delivering learning skills. I can use this for my knowledge management, for my coaching, whatever. Okay? It's okay. You know, there's no rules that says, nope, can't use that twice. Okay? Yeah, you did it. So that's the important thing. The important thing is that you can document it and you can prove that you did it. Yes?
I think this helps people really ace behavioral interviews. Because, I mean, I'm sure you saw that.
I thought about that a little bit.
That's very clear to me.
No.
Thank you.
I think it's great. It's good to get that feedback.
Yeah, because, you know, if you're thinking about it from this perspective, you're prepared for their questions with proof.
Right.
With a story that
Right. Because you're not just saying, I'm a good instructional designer. You're saying, I'm a good instructional designer or trainer, and here, let me show you an example of analysis, a population analysis I did. And the guy that can't spell ASTD is like, holy crap, this is phenomenal. I've never seen one of these before. You look like a superstar. And then, if you're the 10% that's doing it, the other people that are applying for the interview, chances are, most of them don't have a portfolio. How do you think you'll look then? You look good. So, you can get mileage out of that. Now, this gets back to my point. When you do this, you have to think like a hiring manager. Because they have problems to be solved, you know? Again, they don't care that you have, you know, X degrees. They don't care if you know President Obama. They don't care if you were captain of your football team. They don't care if you were, you know, an Olympic athlete or whatever it was. They have problems that they want solved. So that's how you have to look at your portfolio. That your accomplishments essentially, hopefully, are responses to problems that you solved in your organization. Okay? And, you know, some good ones always, you know, they never go out of style. I increased revenue, even if you're a nonprofit. Nonprofits like to increase their resources. Or if you're a profit, I increased sales revenue. I decrease cost. That's always a popular one. So if you had anything to do with those things, every organization loves that. You know, those do not go out of style, in my opinion. So, you have in your handout an action plan. Okay? The whole thing's an action plan, actually, but work with me on this. When you go home, I've identified some things that I want you to do. Don't do like this guy. Okay? Don't go home and ignore this. Don't say, you know, I laughed a couple of times when that Williams guy spoke, but yeah, I really can't remember anything what he said or why it's important. Okay? Don't make me go back and show the slide of my family again. Do this for you, please. Okay? I'm telling you. If you've been laid off, it's a horrible feeling. We are lucky that we're in a field that is probably healthier than most these days, in some respects. My graduates are getting multiple job offers in instructional design. That's good. We're happy about that. But please, take some action. All right? Don't ignore this. So, you know, you're sitting there and you're saying, should I do this? Yeah, you need to. Because again, if an organization can save on resources or just remain the same by letting you go, they will. And it's kind of like, you know, the story you hear about the mafia. It's not personal, it's just business. They'll let you go. You're a nice person, but you're gone. Sorry. Yes, sir.
I would say beyond just the fact that you may let go, this is an excellent tool for you to actually move up, right?
To get promoted within the same organization, yeah. All right. I'm not advocating that you be this pirate, this maverick that's willing to jump ship at, you know, the drop of a hat. But you have to look out for yourself, and you have to be ready, because you never know when opportunities come up. And believe me, you don't want to be in a situation where you see an opportunity and they say the deadline is X, and you can't get it together because you haven't kind of kept up on this stuff. That's very sad. I've seen that happen. You know, just don't be in that position. So I would submit to you that, yeah, you do want to do this. It's not hard. If I can do it, anybody can do it. It's a mechanical writing process. Okay, you start with the accomplishments and you boil them down to the format. Okay, it's a writing exercise, really. It's a writing and thinking exercise. It's not highly technical at all. So, you know, my whole thing is you don't want to take chances with this stuff. Okay, you want to be in control. Are we ever totally in control? Well, no. But you know what? I feel a lot better about my career and myself, knowing that if University of Maryland said to me today, Greg, you know, we're closing your program down, they won't, because we've grown 80% in 5 years. Accomplishment, documented, got it down. So my program's doing well, but funny things happen. The president might say, yeah, I don't like the way you look. You're gone. Anything can happen. You don't want to be left out without a plan. Yes?
I just want to put a plug in for CPLP. I mean, that was one of the key things I benefited from by getting certified was my work product.
Okay.
Because it made me focus and document what I do for my job. So, and it's all outcome based, so it was beneficial.
Okay.
And there's a great artifact.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Recognized? Okay. So, you know, I don't have a crystal ball, but I would say looks better by having a portfolio than not having a portfolio. That's what I would say. So, we have time for questions and discussion, and then I've broken the presentation up because I wasn't sure what time I was going to end and talk about electronic portfools. Do you want me to quickly go through electronic portfolios? Okay. All right. Oh, who's that guy? Bonus material. We have bonus material. Woohoo! All right. So it used to be that portfolios were a bear because you had a lot of paper. It still can be that way, but you now can have an electronic portfolio. How many people here know how to create a PDF file? You are all capable of creating an electronic portfolio. You can do it. Okay, it's not hard. So, you know, why do you want to have one? Well, it just, first of all, it makes you look like you're with it. Okay, if somebody brings in a portfolio and everything's papered, it's not necessarily bad. It's better having that than nothing. But, if the thing started to look dog-eared and, you spilled spaghetti sauce on something, it doesn't look good. So you want to have an electronic one because if you're a consultant, you can post portfolio items that people can see examples of your work. Okay. You also want to make sure that if you have to get documents to somebody quickly, you can do that. And there's ways to do that. They can be password protected, so you're not giving them out to the world. There still might be some issues with, all right, when you send that out to them, do they have it forever? Well, it depends on, the terms and conditions that you attach to that. I would say for most of the things that I do, and I'm not in the spy business, so I don't work for that no such agency, that sort of thing. The things that I have for my portfolio items are not proprietary, so I'm lucky. So I don't care if people have my stuff. It's fine. It gets my name out there. Helps my consulting practice, perhaps. And then you have to make the decision. Do you want it public or private? And it depends on your situation. If you're a consultant, I'm sure you want it public. If you work for a particular government agency or a company that prohibits that, then again, you have to abide by whatever the rules and guidelines are of your employer. Now, it used to be that if it involved maybe your expertise or somebody else's expertise, but since you are all PDF experts, you can create one. And here's how you do it. Adobe Acrobat 9 Pro, okay, is a great software that basically they have a format that it's a point and click where they already have the formats all figured out, how they look, you can change the color, and all you do is drop in PDFs. Okay, so you have your choice of layouts, like a basic grid, grid with preview flow. You probably can't see a lot of these, but if you go to Adobe's site, these are all things that you can choose for your layout. You can have like the kind of like the Apple iTunes look, where it looks like the revolving carousel, and your PDFs, the user when they open it up will see the PDFs kind of scroll like that Apple iTunes carousel. I mean, I couldn't do that on my own. I don't have to because Adobe Acrobat 9 does it for me. Pro does it for me.
It comes under portfolio?
It comes, yeah, they actually have a function that says create portfolio. Now, the really cool thing that I like about this software is you can embed audio and video files in this. And all the user needs to play it is Adobe Reader, which pretty much everybody has the free Adobe Reader. All right, when you open up a PDF, you have Adobe Reader. So what you can do is I could put this video in my portfolio. I could send it as a PDF. The user, not having Adobe Acrobat Pro, can just open it up as a PDF, and he or she can actually see my video. Or if I create an audio message. Okay, so it's very powerful. So in the old days, to do something like this, to get that video to somebody, I probably would have to create a website, let's say before YouTube. I'd have to create a website and somehow host it up there. And, I didn't know how to do that. I know more now. I'm not an expert at it, but, I can kind of get along. So this really opens up opportunities where you don't have to create a website, right? You don't have to be high-tech. It takes videos in all different formats, and it recodes them into a Flash video player format. So it doesn't matter. It could be like, an Apple, a .mov video, and you can bring it in, and it'll convert it to a Flash video in here. This is kind of like that revolving iTunes look, okay? So you can see this is a video that somebody imported of the little triangle. So when the user clicks this on, it'll open up that PDF and that video will start playing. Okay? So this is pretty cool stuff. You can, you can use all these different colors, okay, different layouts, different colors, different cover pages. You can say whatever you want to say on a cover page. You can have you can add graphics because again, you're just using the PDF. So you can drop in your picture, you can put in a little introductory message, you can do anything you want, essentially. So it's pretty useful. Yes?
Cost, and if you have multiple ones, say I'm going from is all connected. If you do one, are they all intertwined, or if you want to do a different one for a different child? So
You mean a different portfolio?
Yeah.
Well, you can create as many portfolios as you want.
So you can
Yeah.
just say
I mean, let's say you have, I'll pick, you want a portfolio as an instructional designer,
Right.
as a trainer, and as a training manager, okay? So you can have 3 portfolios
So each of these
with separate
documents
files.
are separate files.
Yeah, so when the user gets it, it looks like a PDF folder.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, it's zipped up like in a PDF folder. They open it up and then they see whatever format that you've chosen. Whether it's like the, the 3 across, that sort of thing, or this revolving carousel sort of look. There's a lot. The cost, you asked about the cost?
Yes.
I've seen it as, it can be as high as $450. I've seen it on some sites for under $200. Academic Superstore is a place, I don't know how they get away with this, but there's a place called Academic Superstore, and it says, if you're a student, if your kids are a student, if you were a student, if your hairstylist is a student, you qualify. So I'm not sure how they do that, but view Academic Superstore. Yes?
I bought mine from there, and all I had to do was send a copy of my student ID, which doesn't have the year list.
Okay. All right, well, here you go. There's testimony. Document that.
What did she say?
You said you just sent a statement that said what?
I said that I was a student. At the time I wasn't.
Okay.
I bought it my last semester, so I was going to get the student rate.
Okay.
And all they asked me to do was send them a copy of my student ID. So I sent a picture ID, I just scanned it and emailed it,
Okay.
and then they sent it a copy.
Yeah, it's just
So
really.
they will ask you to try to verify it.
Yeah, if anybody has a live computer that you can go to the store, let me know what the last I looked it was, like I can get it at our bookstore for under $200. So if you have any connections with academic bookstores, that's always helpful. But like I said, these guys, Academic Superstore, I'm not promoting them, but from memory, they seem to be the cheapest place that I've seen. So, all right, you get your color choices. Again, you can just save it locally, you can email it, you can put it up on, if you want to post it, there's a website called acrobat.com. It lets you post it there for free.
Really?
Yeah. Pretty cool. It also, there's an Acrobat TV channel that has lots of videos on how to create portfolios, how to do lots of the hardcore editing stuff and things like that. But essentially the bottom line is, if you can create a PDF, you can create a portfolio. Okay? It's a great little package. I haven't seen another package that, in my opinion, comes close to it. So, now you're saying, okay, maybe there's still some people, maybe there's one person, and I don't want to embarrass you, that can't create a PDF, all right? There's another program out there called Visual CV. It's a web-based program, essentially. And what it can do is it has all these templates, okay? It's free. And it has all these templates that you can just pretty much fill out, and then it'll create websites with these different looks. Okay? It has different examples on there. Like it'll show people from, let's say, engineering versus education versus nonprofit, et cetera, et cetera. You can link audios and videos to it. It's multimedia friendly, where you can send stuff to YouTube and Flickr and all different sorts of multimedia. The audio with iTunes and so forth, and Facebook and all. So it's pretty cool, and it's free. And like most programs, that if you want to buy the advanced version, I think they have that, but the plain version works fine. All you need is just you click it on, you create an account, and it has little text boxes that you fill in, and then it does the rest. So and I haven't found one quite like this either. There are lots of just resume programs that like how to create a resume, but this does a little bit more than that. I haven't used it extensively, but for free compared to what it can do, I think it's pretty good. So that's it. We have time for questions. I'll be here for a while afterwards. Questions, comments? Just go. Yes.
From Academic Superstore, it's $119.95.
Oh, $119.95. Wow, better than my bookstore. Those rascals, how did they do that? Questions, comments? Fruit you want to throw at me? Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here today.